Okay, we're going to take a look at creating a Rokoko live link so that we can directly send from Rokoko, specifically so that we can get face capture, which is a little bit tricky, to be honest, to get onto a metahuman if you're not using something like the Rokoko tool. So let's take a look at Rokoko Studio first off to get a sense of how this works. So I have two clips here. I have one clip here that I pre-recorded, which is I basically just had the suit hanging and I grabbed it and started moving around. But then I took another clip and I actually used the face capture software, which we're going to go over in class. But I recorded this, and then what I'm going to do is I want to actually get this to Unreal. Now, in order to move this to Unreal, you can't export the same way that we did with the FBX process, because Unreal will not natively import an FBX and then apply that to a face of a metahuman. So what we do is we actually do what's called live streaming. So with the Rokoko Studio that we have, the subscription-based model, you can use a live streaming link right here. And then right here, you'll see there's a little Unreal activation, and you literally just have to activate it. You'll see that this green box pops around and it says live. Now everything coming from Rokoko will now stream to Unreal. Now I can take a pre-recorded and just literally just play it, and now this will be streaming over to Unreal. Now there it is. Now it's a little tricky to set this up, but let's go ahead and jump in and try to set this up so that we can get this to function. Now I'm going to make a new level. So go to File, New Level, and I'm going to do a basic, create, and then we will save this guy. And I'm going to call this Rokoko starter _02. There we go. And now that's in here. I'm going to close a couple of these down because we'll get to them in a second. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take our metahuman and drop them into the scene. So remember, I have this metahuman. Here's Erno. Literally drag this dude out and drop them in. Takes a second to do. But when Erno is placed into the scene, frame him up a little bit. And there he is, just by default. That is our Erno character. Now, one other thing that I want to do is if I look at my content folder, you're going to see a Rokoko resources folder right here. Now, this Rokoko resources folder has a few things in here, and primarily the main one that we're going to use for this process is the metahuman base skeleton pose. Now, in order to actually load that in, we're going to close all this down. I have right here a folder, and it has the Rokoko resources folder in it. And we actually have to pull this over to our Unreal project folder, not in the content browser, but in the actual project itself. So if I go to, let's see if I can find it really quick. No, that's not it. It must be in my documents and virtual production intro, Rokoko starter. So I'm actually going to put this into the content folder of my project, not in my browser, not inside of Unreal's browser, but in the actual computer browser. And you'll see right there, I've already dropped it in, so I'm not going to do it again, but I'll just literally drag it over and copy it into the Rokoko the Rokoko starter content folder here. So this is the actual project, and I'm just pulling that over. Now, why is that? It's because of the way that these assets are accessed. They need to actually be brought in through the content of the engine package, not just imported. So it's just a weird little thing, but and I'll have a link to where these resources are for you to download as well. All right, so we're in our Rokoko starter project, and now what we need to do is actually get that live link to pull over into Unreal. So we're going to go through this process here. So I'm going to open up the metahuman Erno blueprint. So I'm going to find that Erno blueprint, double click it, and I can pop that in here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the body. So in the metahuman blueprint, I'm going to go to body, and then over here I'm going to go to the skeletal mesh asset. Double click this. And now what I should see in here is the skeletal mesh. We talked about this, the base skeleton from the last little project we did. I have the animation, and then I also have over here, which is the actual blueprint. Now I'm going to open up the blueprint here. So this is the Anim BP blueprint. And you'll notice that it'll probably look a little bit different than what you're seeing right now. And I'm going to actually disconnect these so that we can reset this up. So what's going to happen is when you open this up initially, you are going to see right here this retarget pose from mesh link attached. So we're actually going to just literally, we can break that link. We don't need it. Just going to pull this down here and be done with it. But what we want to do is we actually want to create a process of taking the live link and connecting it over here. So what we do is we are going to create what's called a Rokoko body pose node. So, and actually, I'm sorry, what I should have said was this is what you would see initially. So you would see this retarget pose from mesh connected to the output pose here. We are going to just simply break that and, oops, just pull that out of the way. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a Rokoko body pose node. Now, if you don't see some of this that I'm going to do, I'm going to talk to you about why that is in 1 second. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to type in, Rokoko, and then B, and then what I should see is Rokoko body pose. And this is what I want. So now what I can do is I can grab this and drop it into the result. It'll automatically create the component to local. And again, I had already set this up. That's why you're seeing this stuff. So I'm actually going to delete that now. I don't need it. So that's looking good. So if you right click in here and you type in Rokoko and you don't see any of this, it is because you do not have the Rokoko plugin installed. And that's all it is. You just have to go to Edit and go to Plugins, look for Rokoko, and turn Rokoko Studio Live on, and then it should, that Rokoko, all the Rokoko stuff should be available to you. All right, excellent. So I've got that in place. The next thing I need to do is I need to create 2 variables. And again, I've already done it over here, but I'm going to click on the little plus variable, and I'm going to create a variable called, and again, I'm going to just sort of fake this, Rokoko actor name 2, right? Because I already have one there. And then I'm going to change this to a name. So you can see I'm creating a variable and I'm going to name, it's going to be a type of name variable. Okay? So, and what I'm going to do here is I'm actually, in this particular instance, I'm going to use Rokoko actor name. The next thing I'm going to do is, well, let's do this. Let's get rid of this. Yep, delete it. I'm going to create another one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this Rokoko bone map. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop this down and I'm going to search for Rokoko. And then you'll see I have Rokoko body map data. And I want that to be a class reference. So there it is. And now, let's get rid of this guy as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Rokoko actor name variable, pull it out, and say get. So this will actually get this name. So basically what's happening is it will look for something by that name and get it. So it's going to get that name. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the bone map, drop that out here. I'm going to get that bone map as well, and I'm going to place it in there. Now, if I come over, actually we're going to compile this. If I come over to this window, what you should see, and I'm going to delete these guys here so that we can start from scratch. What you should see over here now is a Rokoko actor name and a Rokoko bone map. So these two are equivalent to these. Okay, so these guys are connecting here. And what I want to do is the Rokoko actor name needs to match back to my Rokoko space. It needs to match my actor's name right here. So right now it's called Dave G. Need to make sure I get the capitalization. So I'll copy that, pop back to Unreal, paste it. There we go. I can apply that. Next to that here is the Rokoko bone map. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for the MetaHuman bone map and apply. Now the MetaHuman bone map is available to me. If I look back into the contents folder, it's going to be right here, that MetaHuman bone map, and that's the one I want to use. And pop back over here. We're all good on all this. Now one other thing I need to do is, if you look at this character, his arms are kind of in a funky spot, and the reason that's happening is because at the moment he needs to be in a T-pose. He's not in a T-pose yet. So what I do is I pop back over to my Rokoko resources, and this MetaHuman base skeleton pose T-pose asset, I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to drag it and connect it right there to the pose. And what this is saying is, it says MetaHuman base skeleton pose asset. I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to convert to pose by name. And now what's going to happen is I can literally just type in whatever pose I want. And if I look back at my asset here, if I double click on this base skeleton, what you're going to see is I have a pose, and this pose is a T-pose. If I go to 1, it will go all the way up. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm not sure where that was, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But the T-pose here, I can set that to 1. It's pose_0. So if I pop back into my right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to call this pose_0. Click it. Should be able to compile that, and I should be good to go. So pose_0, that should be good. Now I'm seeing his arms are looking a little bit funky here, but should be connected here. I'm not sure why that's not working. So pose_0 at 0, compile. Yeah, should be down like that. At 1, compile. Okay, for some reason the arms aren't popping out. That's okay. It'll work when we connect it. I just wanted to show you that process. So that should be good there. Make sure I got the MetaHuman bone map connected. Should be Dave G. Okay, so that should be all good there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this over. So let's compile and save. And if I pop back into my project here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the Erno BP. And what I want to do is, the first thing I want to do is I want to go to the body pose, the body of the asset here. And I'm going to say use animation mode. And what I want to do is actually want to use this retarget MetaHuman base skeleton. Click on that. And it looks like it's working good. Oh, I know why that's not working actually, because my live link is active right now. So that is why that is making it look like that. So that's actually working correctly. So right now that asset is connected, and it is going to look like this, and that is what it's doing. Now the last thing I need to do is click on the BP Erno itself. I'm going to go to the live link right here. I'm going to click on the drop down. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, I need to actually make my live link active. So I'm going to go up to Window, come down to Virtual Production, Live Link, and right here you'll see I have, it's sending that over and saying cool, that's what I got. And Dave G, that's all active, which is great. So that should be good. Now I'll click on Erno again, drop this down. There it is. I'm going to go to the face, and I'm going to turn on the Use AR Face Kit. And it instantly connects, and it is good. So I just have to make sure that this live link is set correctly, which it is, which is great, and everything else should fall right into place as I go into the AR Face Kit.